What's up, everybody? Welcome to Christmas in a Bag. I'm pumped that you found a moment in the craziness of your Christmas season to press pause. Whether you're alone or with friends and family right now, to just take time and connect with God and hopefully allow Him to fill you up again with wonder at the brilliance of everything this season means. I've been thinking lately about how easy it is for Christmas to become just a thing we do, or maybe even a whole list of things we do. Watch movies, hang lights, decorate cookies, go to parties, sing carols, unwrap presents, and all that stuff is awesome. But what I want us to do right now, in the middle of all the fun and craziness surrounding us, is just take a minute and allow ourselves to be blown away all over again by the fact that Jesus stepping into the human story changed everything. I mean, this moment when God became man, when eternity crashed into history, when light exploded into the darkness, transformed every aspect of the world. It shifted the way we think about history and about the future. Because before Jesus came along, people generally thought that time was cyclical and random and repetitive and purposeless. They just kind of thought the human story was wandering around in circles, and so they didn't really attach dates to things, even things that seemed fairly significant. And that's difficult for us to even wrap our minds around because we live in a society that is absolutely convinced time is moving forward. We see time as linear, headed in a certain direction, and we believe the human race and the human story are going somewhere. So the question is, why? Why do we think that? It's a relatively new phenomenon in the entire history of the world, but we're confident it's true. And Jesus is actually the reason. Our culture thinks the way it thinks about time because 2,000 years ago, Jesus showed up and told us history is God's story and God is taking it somewhere. I mean, check it out. Before that happened, the way people dated things or attempted to measure major events was by talking about the ruler who was in charge at the time. That's why we get these really wordy, almost awkward phrases like the one at the beginning of Luke 2 about Quirinius being the governor of Syria. Luke knew people would ask him the question, when was Jesus born? And so he answered it in the best way he knew how. He wrote, well, like Caesar Augustus decided to take a census, and he did that multiple times actually, but this particular one that correlates to the birth of Jesus is, it was the first census that Caesar Augustus took while Quirinius was the governor of Syria. And that helped people ballpark it, but it's a lot of words and it's not very precise. It'd kind of be like us answering the question, when did the Civil War start, by saying, well, it began in the second month of the first year of the reign of Lincoln. We call that 1861. And we call it 1861 because of Jesus. And also because of this other dude, a monk in Rome named Dionysius Exiguus. In case your Latin's a little bit rusty, Dionysius Exiguus means little Dennis. I love it. I actually made you guys a picture of him so you can see what he looked like. There he is. That's tall Dennis, regular Dennis, and little Dennis. I'm pretty sure this is a historically accurate picture, and it's spot on, so you're welcome. Little Dennis came along, and he said, hey, we need a better way to reference and understand the story of what God has done, is now doing, and will do in the future. And the truth is, the birth of Jesus changes everything, all of human history. Since sin entered the world when Adam and Eve rebelled in the garden, was building up to the moment when God stepped in. The world was simply waiting for the incarnation, for the Messiah, the one God promised them would come to make things right again. And then the entire future of humanity changed the minute he arrived. The human story has proceeded in a dramatically different direction, beginning with the first Christmas. And what this means unequivocally is that Christmas is the fulcrum of history. And since everything about our world hinged on that moment, you guys, we should measure things. We should date them by their proximity to the birth of Jesus Christ. And people heard what little Dennis was saying. They're like, little Dennis, that's genius. You're right. And so they adopted his system that he invented of defining time by dating events both backward and forward from Jesus' birth. And now today, 1,600 years after little Dennis died, if you pick up your phone, look at a newspaper, crack open a computer screen, you're going to see 2021. You guys, that's not just a number. It is a truth claim. It's a declaration that Jesus changes everything. And listen, it doesn't even matter if you change the label behind that number to CE and BCE, Common Era before the Common Era, instead of using BC and AD, before Christ and Anno Domini in the year of our Lord. Like, you can call it whatever you want. It shifts nothing about the fact that the number in question is measured by the birth of Jesus Christ, by its relationship to the moment God broke through. And so, thanks, little Dennis, for helping all of us understand how the first Christmas was the hinge of human history. Like Christmas, when an eternal God crammed himself into a human body to be with us, when Jesus stepped into our brokenness and into our filth, like literally our filth, as he was laid in a manger in a borrowed stable, surrounded by animals and the dunghill where their manure was piled. The symbolism of that is so cool. In the 5th century, St. Jerome wrote these words, begging us not to miss the meaning of it all. He said, "He is not born in a castle filled with gold. He is born in a barn filled with dung, and our sin is more filthy even than the dung. Jesus was born onto the dunghill to save those who come from it." It's just some profound imagery, and Jerome's actually quoting a prophetic psalm about Jesus, Psalm 113, which is the same psalm Mary quoted in her prayer after the angel told her she'd give birth to the Messiah. Verses 5-7 says this, "Who is like the Lord our God, the one who sits enthroned on high, who stoops down to look on the heavens and the earth? He raises the poor from the dust and the needy from the dunghill." Oh, you guys, God looked down on all of our fears, faults, and failures, at you and me, in the middle of our brokenness and our imperfections and the grossness of our sin and self-destruction. And he said, "I love you too much to leave you there. I'm coming." God loved you, so he came. And now we measure everything backward and forward from that moment, from Christmas, because Christmas means nothing is the same. And nothing ever will be.